well, you're going to protect a lot of pilgrims with 9 people. It's a cover story. They stayed there for some 9 years or so, and according to excavations in that area in the 19th century, artifacts and things were found, signs were found that the Templars had been under Temple Mount. Whatever, something changed very quickly after around 9 years, because a couple of these guys came back to France and started signing up the aristocratic families of Europe. They clearly knew something big time. They became extremely wealthy because you had to give your wealth and land to the Templars to join. And they set up what is effectively the banking system of Europe out of places like Paris and London that were their major headquarters. In 1307, they had the crown heads of Europe up to their necks in debt to them, with a scam that follows these bloodlines everywhere that they have come, right to the present day. And the scam is lending people money that doesn't exist and charging them interest on it. That's the scam. A lot of people don't realize that when you go to a bank and you want to borrow 50 grand, the bank doesn't pull 50 grand out the bloody vault. It doesn't move a piece of precious metal a single sodding inch. All it does is type into your account 50 grand, and from that moment on you start paying interest on money that has not, does not, and will never exist. Huh? I've got a great idea, no one wants to hear it. To solve world debt, the debt of business, the debt of individuals, all of it. Jam jars. Jam jars. I thought it'd go down well. What we do is we have a national campaign of collecting jam jars, empty ones. We put the lid on, so trapping the air, and we deliver them to the bank saying just paying back what we borrowed, and that's the frickin' end of it. And ludicrous as that may sound, that's actually what we're borrowing. Now, because the same network, the Illuminati, has controlled the politicians, it also controls the banks. They've got the politicians to make legislation that gives the banks the right to lend at least 10 times what it has on deposit, therefore giving it the ability to lend fresh air and charge money for it. This is how it works once you see the structure that we're being controlled within. So anyway, the Knights Templar were eventually purged by Philip the Fair, the King of France, in 1307. On Friday the 13th, which is why Friday the 13th has been considered unlucky ever since, apparently, and they went runabout. They almost certainly went to the Americas, because the knowledge of the Americas existed goes back a long way in the secret knowledge line. They also went to Scotland, which I'll get to in a second, but they went down significantly to the United States, to Portugal, where they hid behind a front called the Knights of Christ that was the Templars under another name. And this is very significant because one of the most famous Grand Masters of the Knights of Christ was a guy called Prince Henry the Navigator, and one of his sea captains was very close to him, was the father-in-law of Christopher Columbus. And it's within the Templars, and within particularly those that were exploring on behalf of the Templars, they had maps going back to the ancient world, some of which have come to light, that showed that the Americas existed long before official history says anyone knew it did. Though I think the Native Americans probably knew it existed. I think they probably sussed it. When Columbus went on his trip, he wasn't looking for India. He pretty much knew where he was going because of that. This was the Knights Templar. The red cross on the white background was its symbol, which of course is the flag of England, and St. George comes from that same area of the world, what we call Cappadocia, now Turkey. And the Great Work, which is one of the names they give to this movement through the ages of taking the planet over, was massively advanced when Columbus made his trip, and also another guy, I'll come to in a second, made the trip to find North America, and the whole movement of peoples from Europe could go and take the North American continent over. This is Christopher Columbus. He went and found that bit. And this is John Cabot, whose real name was Giovanni Caboto. a naturalized Venetian, and he left the Templar port of Bristol to find North America about 4 or 5 years after he found that bit. Official history doesn't put them together, but you can. A Freemasonic historian who got to the 32nd degree, I think, of the Scottish Rite, called Manly P. Hall in America, wrote a book about this, and he says that Columbus and Cabot, Giovanni Caboto, were both connected into the same secret society networks in Genoa, and therefore they both were working to the same plan when they found North America, because then the whole business of moving in on that continent could start. This is Chris. A number of people have kind of made the point that they call him Christopher Columbus, but he used to sign his name Colon. That was, I said that in America once, you know. I said, why do you call Powell Colon Powell? And someone said, because he's full of shit. I thought it was quite good myself. But why do they? You know what I mean? Everything is symbolism. So was Columbus. Columbus. When you go back to Babylon, you find that they worshipped a trinity of Nimrod, the father, who they symbolize as a fish, Ninos Tamos, the son, and they said father and son were one. I've heard that somewhere before. This is thousands of years BC. And the female point of the Babylonian trinity was someone called Queen Semiramis. Queen Semiramis has become a symbol of the Illuminati, in the Illuminati goddess I was talking about earlier. And